In a remarkable exchange, the presidency has responded to former President Olusegun Obasanjo's critique of Nigeria's democracy. Special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Ononuga, fired back at Obasanjo, attributing the current state of the nation's democracy to decisions made during Obasanjo's leadership. The response comes after Obasanjo's critical comments during a high-level consultation on rethinking Western liberal democracy in Africa. Obasanjo suggested that the Western democracy model had not delivered good governance and development in Africa, proposing a re-examination and moderation of democracy tailored to Africa's unique needs. The presidency, however, criticized Obasanjo for what it called a poor implementation of the presidential system, highlighting flaws in the copied model. Ononuga argued that if Obasanjo truly believed in his current views, he ought to advocate for the return to a parliamentary system. Well, joining us tonight to further discuss this is legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Tunji Abdulhameed. Tunji, it's a pleasure to have you tonight on the news. Let's start this way. Former Nigerian president, like you just heard, gave his critique against Western liberal democracy, not just in Nigeria, but in African countries. But he said that these countries have no business operating a system of government without having a role in its definition and design. Do you agree with his assertion? This I've just talked about, and generally all that he said.
Yeah, to an extent, I agree with what he said. To an extent, firstly, good evening and thank you for having me. I agree with what he said to an extent, and I also agree with the critique of the presidency of what he said. You see, as far as I'm concerned, democracy itself is not our problem. The problem we have is the people who are implementing democracy we are talking about. Democracy is about the people, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Are we truly practicing democracy in the country or generally in Africa? For me, the answer is no. What we are practicing in Africa generally is civilian rule, where we have democracy. I agree with Baba Obasanjo in the sense that the former president, in the sense that, look, yes, he's saying the right thing. And the fact that he has the opportunity does not erode the fact that he can talk about things after whenever he sees what is going on. We have what is democracy? Government of the people by the people. What are the features of democracy? The rule of law, respect for rule of law, 14 of representative, obedience for fundamental rights. Is there a rule of law in our country today and in most Africans? Are government obeying the rule of law? Are they doing what they are supposed to do? In Nigeria, particularly the last regime, there are so many other, of course, that were flatly disrespected. They refuse to obey it. So if you are not obeying the rule of law, you are not respecting the fundamental right of the citizen. The electoral process is not free and fair. What are we talking about? Is that democracy? That is not democracy. And the fact that, look, we have people who are elected does not mean we are practicing democracy. Once that democracy is not giving dividend to the people, that is not democracy. Because the end of democracy is for the benefit of the people. And that's what the president was saying, the former president was saying, that the democracy we are practicing in Africa is not giving dividends to the people. And that was why I said I agree with him. There is no dividend of that democracy that we are seeing in this country today, and majorly in Africa. What we see today is that we have the few people benefiting from the government. Few people who, in quotes, force themselves into power and become our leaders, and in the name of democracy, without fair and fair election. You see what has happened in 2023 and in the last election in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa. I can't call that one election, particularly the last election. And the last one in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa, they are not proper election. So as far as I'm concerned, the former president was right when he said democracy is, in as much as it's not yielding result for us, we should think of how to implement it in a way that will consider our own unique character or features in Africa. I also want to align myself with the position of the presidency in the sense that, look, yes, in as much as I agree with the former president, he has the opportunity also when he was there to implement this thing he's saying now. In fact, he was part of those who caused this problem that we're talking about. This thing, the issue that he's talking about now, he was part of them. When he was in power, there was no respect for rule of law. When he was in power, in fact, during our election, he said it's a do or die affair. That is not democracy. When he was there, there was no respect for fundamental rights, in a way. So these are the things that he was complaining of, and he also was part of it. So what I'm saying is that he was part of the problem that he's talking about today. But the fact that he's saying it, they will not look at the messenger, they will look at the message. And that was why I said, to an extent, I agree with the presidency and also disagree with them. They should not throw away what he said just because he was a former president and he had the opportunity to change it and he didn't change it. Let's look at what he said and let's see how we can improve on it and see whether or not we'll have a better country in that or better continent in that regard. So
Tunji Abdulhameed, thank you so much. Because of time, just a quick one. What model of should we even call it democracy, of governance, do you think suits Africa?
Yeah, you see, whatever name you call it, if you call it democracy, and you allow your own pattern to be a part of it, it doesn't change it to be a democracy. Like for example, in America, in Nigeria we have democracy, simple majority. Once you have a simple majority, you win election, and then you must have 2/3 in a certain area. In America, even if you have a majority vote, you may still not win election because that's what they call electoral college. So that is our own pattern. So we can also adopt one and make it our own form of democracy. What we should do is that, look, whatever system we adopt, it should be for the benefit of the majority of the people, not for few people who are in government. So that's what we're missing, and that's why we're not getting dividends. Those who are in government are not implementing the policy of the democracy or the benefit of the democracy for the people. They are using it for their own personal benefits, and that is the problem we're talking about. So democracy should be about the people. It should be about benefit for the people. The vote, it must be about having the interest of the people at heart. So whatever name you call it, what is important is that are people benefiting from it. Once people are benefiting and there's a free and fair election and the rule of law is being obeyed, there's respect for it, the separation of power is respected, then you are working well. So whatever name you want to call it, I don't even see the reason why we should change the name from democracy. It can be democracy in our own, and we practice it the way we like. There's no law that says this democracy that we call democracy must be practiced in this particular manner. That it's not a straight jacket thing. You can't change it to suit your own purpose, and without changing the name democracy.
Tunji Abdulhameed, very interesting views you have there. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the news.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.